Now let's shift our focus to the topic that can quietly transform a founder's journey, the power of authentic connection. Have you ever wondered how building the right relationships can unlock new opportunities, inspire a team, and strengthen resilience in your business scales? On our next session, Flip the Box Connection as a Founder's Hidden Growth Strategy, we'll explore exactly that. Shari Leid, creator of Flip the Box, will reveal why connection is not just a soft skill, it's a core growth strategy that enables founders to lead with clarity, purpose, and lasting impact in today's fast-paced entrepreneur world. So please join me in welcoming Shari Leid, author, keynote speaker, and attorney at Imperfectly Life, LLC, to the stage for this insightful keynote. Her programs blend story, strategy, and practical tools, helping leaders and teams reignite their purpose, strengthen connection, and deliver real results. Let's hear it for Shari.
Hello, I had to grab a handheld because I like to move around here a little bit. I actually looked it up. You burn more calories when you speak if you walk and move around. So it's a little self-serving here. Hello. So today I'm going to move these too because I don't want to trip over these. Today, you are going to pick up a 4-step framework that will unlock your business's hidden growth strategy. Now, before we get into the framework, it's really important for you to understand the backdrop of it, how it all came about. Yeah, I got my clicker here. This framework is called Flip the Box. And so it's important to understand the backdrop. So let me ask you a question. Do you remember your 16th birthday? Because I remember mine, because mine was going to be magical. For the very first time in my life, I had a boyfriend. My boyfriend, he looked like Tom Cruise in Top Gun, the original. And my birthday is December 16th, 9 days before Christmas. Now, if you have a December birthday, you get it. We just want what everyone else has. A birthday and Christmas, not birthmas. Well, my high school boyfriend came over to my house with my birthday present, wrapped in Christmas paper. Birthmas. My teenage heart was crushed. And my parents must have thought, maybe if Shari understands where she came from, she wouldn't feel so lost. So they handed me a thin purple binder. Inside was my adoption paperwork. Now, I always knew I was adopted. I had just never seen the paperwork before. And what I saw stopped me in my tracks. A baby, found, no name, no birth date, left in a parking lot, left in a cardboard box. So that birthday that just wrecked my teenage heart, it wasn't even mine. It was just the date the orphanage had given me. Life moved on as it does. I became an attorney, a writer, a speaker, a mom to 2 incredible kids, an ex-wife to an okay ex-husband. But that box, that cardboard box, kept on popping up into rooms saying, "You don't belong here." And finally, I got tired of listening to that box and decided if I wanted to find connection, I needed to go out and find it myself. So I came up with a plan. I decided I would travel to all 50 states in a year. And to make this personal, in every state, I would share a meal with somebody. But not just with anyone, with a stranger. By the end of that year, I sat at 50 tables, met 50 incredible people, and shared 50 amazing meals. But this was never about the food. This was about finding connection in the most unexpected places. Like Williamsburg, Virginia, where I met Megan. Now, Megan is a makeup artist. She's a white woman who reminded me of Reese Witherspoon with her blonde hair and her blue eyes. Her maiden name was Wilson, but when she got married, she took on her husband's distinctly Japanese last name, Yamamoto. I said, Megan, was it hard for you to take on a last name so different than your own background? She said, oh, Shari, not for me. But here's the funny part. After I changed my name from Wilson to Yamamoto, I got booked solid with Asian wedding parties. And then Megan said something even funnier. She said, oh, and while I'm working on my clients, they often look at me and say, oh, I see it now. I see the Japanese in you, pointing out Asian features that blonde-haired, blue-eyed Megan clearly doesn't have. But then Megan said something that changed my life. She said, people see what they're looking for. And from that moment on, I stopped looking for all the places that I didn't feel connected, and I started seeing all the places that I do. And something even more magical, somewhere between California and Connecticut, I realized I had symbolically taken that cardboard box I was found in and flipped it, and it became a table where connection was found. And that brings us to our framework called Flip the Box. But before we really dive in, there's one more piece to this backdrop that you need to understand. So I told you I was orphaned and I don't know my birth story. What do you think you do when you don't know your birth story? Any ideas? Anybody have an idea? What do? You're right. You make one up. So I've had 3 birth stories during my lifetime. The one I told as a child in kindergarten, I stood tall on the jungle gym and announced to my class, I am a princess from Korea. And for a while, I was the princess of recess. I was 5 years old and I did not want to fit in. I wanted to stand out. And it worked great until my teacher, Miss Dumas, called my parents in for a meeting. And Miss Dumas, I admired her. I thought she looked like a princess. So there I sat, 5-year-old me, with my mom on one side and my dad on the other, with Miss Dumas across from the desk. And she leaned over and she said, Shari, I understand that you've been telling your classmates that you are a princess from Korea. Then she said, Shari, in this classroom, we don't tell lies. If you think you can't be humiliated at age 5, I promise you, you can. And just like that, I got rid of that first story I ever made up about myself and didn't tell another story until my 30s when I was diagnosed with hip dysplasia. So I went from never having hip problems to being told by 3 different orthopedic surgeons that I needed 2 full hip replacements. I said to the last surgeon, what causes hip dysplasia? He said, well, there could be many causes, but a common cause is a breech birth. Oh, do you know anyone with bad directional sense? Because that's me. I always seem to turn the wrong way. So this theory of a breech birth suddenly made so much sense. And there I had my second birth story. But this birth story didn't involve any princesses. This one went like this. My birth mother was unwed, uneducated, and poor. Because I was breech, she had a difficult pregnancy and labor and deemed me bad luck. And that's why she abandoned me in that cardboard box. And I told that sad story for years, often adding a little humor, but I said it over and over again until one day I attended a girlfriend's party and she hired a psychic. This psychic had short, curly hair, wore a scarf with charms. She even had a crystal ball, like she was right out of the movies. When it came my turn to sit down with her, I sat down and I said, can you tell me anything about my birth family? She said, oh, your mom and dad, they loved each other so much. They were so in love and they wanted to get married. And your mom, she came from a family of importance. They had standing in the community. They were business owners. But your parents were so young, her family would not allow them to marry. And truth be told, your dad, kind of a bad boy. But they loved each other. I blew her off, went on with the party. But the next day, as I was driving to work, I felt myself sit up taller. My spine was straighter. And I realized it was the first time in my life that I thought that I was born out of love and I came from a family of importance. And I realized it didn't matter if the psychic story was true or not. What mattered was the story I chose to believe. And science backs this up. Our brains don't necessarily know the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined, because the stories you tell yourself changes everything about yourself. The story you tell yourself changes everything about yourself. So let me ask you, are there any stories that you're telling yourself that don't help you sit up taller? If there are, we're going to flip those. And this gets us to the flip the box framework. Step number 1, F. F stands for focus. So I'm a speaker. I speak across the nation on connection, and I love it. I get excited. This morning before I came down here, I was doing my pre-speaking dance. Anybody below me on the floor, below me, floor 23, room 2318, I apologize. But I get excited. It energizes me. But if you met me 10 years ago, this would not have been the case. I remember this night where I was attending my kids. It was like the beginning of school when your kids are in elementary school and they have parents meet each other. And the teacher, Miss Davis, said, "Oh, I would love for all of you to introduce yourselves. Say your name and your child's name." I immediately got nervous. I felt my hands get clammy. I felt my heart start to beat out of my chest. I started to shake, literally shake. When it came my turn, my voice cracked when I started to say my name. And quite frankly, I really don't remember the rest because I probably blanked out a little bit. That gives you an idea of how afraid I was of public speaking. Now, public speaking is a common fear. So if you experience this or if you know someone who does, you may be wondering, okay, Shari, well then what got you from there to here? Well, I'm glad you asked because I'm going to tell you. Champagne. So one night I was home. So this is a true confession, okay? Don't judge. One night I was home alone and I opened a bottle of champagne, sat on the couch with my glass and turned on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Do you remember that show? It was a show by Jerry Seinfeld, who loves cars. He would go to visit one of his comedic friends who had a car collection. They would get in one of the cars, talk about the car, and go get coffee. And because it was Jerry Seinfeld, he named the show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Well, there was this show that I was watching with champagne. Kevin Hart was on it. And so they were riffing. There were bits of them on the show with them on stage. I was laughing. And Champagne looked at me and said, "That looks easy. You could do that." Well, the next morning, I woke up to an email and a bit of a headache. And I looked, and Champagne and I had signed up for Stand-Up Comedy Class 101. The way this class was structured was a professional comedian ran the class. He had 3 classes. The first class, they taught you how to write a stand-up comedy bit. Second class, you performed in front of your class. Third, you were at the iconic 220-seat Market Theater at the Pike Place Market in Seattle. My first instinct was to delete that email and just keep it between Champagne and me. But I didn't do that because I knew inside that being afraid to even say my name in front of a group of parents was holding me back. So I decided I have to do this. And I needed a plan. Okay, what can I do? I'll go for the lowest hanging fruit. I know. I will just talk about me, self-deprecating jokes about what it's like to be short, middle-aged, and an Asian American woman. Easy. So I was actually running late the first day of class, and I never run late. So I think unconsciously, subconsciously, I was fighting getting there, but I got there. I walk into the classroom and open the door. And to my shock, most of the class was filled with students of Asian descent. I thought, oh no, we're all thinking the same thing. We're thinking, oh, we'll just tell self-deprecating jokes. And I knew we couldn't all get on stage and talk about what it's like to be Asian. So I rewrote. I rewrote and I rewrote. And when it came time to perform, my set landed. And it didn't land because I was fearless. It landed because I changed my focus. I changed my focus. The question went from what would be easiest for me to how can I connect with my audience? What can I say that would help my audience understand me? What can I do to make my audience laugh? And this is step number 1. Don't focus on you, focus on who. Don't focus on you, focus on who. Focus on your team, focus on your clients, focus on your stakeholders. When you take the focus off of you, which isn't always easy as a leader, and you focus on who, you start to see opportunity. Don't focus on you, focus on who. So that's the first step in the flip formula. And now let's talk about the second step, because focus tells us who's important. The second step, L, tells us what's important. And this brings me to my dad, who I was incredibly close to. My dad was an instructor for the deaf at Seattle Central Community College in the 1970s and 1980s. And like any instructor, he was given a textbook and was told this should work. Well, it didn't. And didn't work. It wasn't because his students weren't curious and capable. It was because of the way the books were written, the language in the books. Because these books are written under regular English structure, and American Sign Language doesn't always follow that structure. And his students, many of them at the time, were either born deaf or became deaf early in life. So they didn't have the same English structure in their toolbox. So I remember my dad at night writing his own lesson plans. This was in the 70s, so carbon paper everywhere. He was an engineer by training, so his engineering tools were out. And he wrote and rewrote and often drew a lot of diagrams. And he made these math concepts digestible in the way his students could learn. He eventually published his own math book. It was called Green Mountain Math. And what I learned from this experience was that my dad wasn't just a good math teacher, he was a great communicator. Because the question came not why aren't they getting it? It was, what do I need to do so that these meanings can land? And this is step number 2. Don't listen to reply, listen to identify. Don't listen to reply, listen to identify. So many times as leaders, as a head of businesses, we hire people, and especially if we, there was a panel I was on yesterday talking about culture fit. So we bring in people with diverse backgrounds, with maybe new opinions, younger people, and oftentimes when we listen, in our minds we're thinking, okay, we're bringing them in for new ideas, but we're getting ready to reply, to tell them why we do things a certain way, why our systems work. And when we listen to identify what's the meaning behind their words, identify why they may be likely to do something a little different, we start to see opportunity and change, and that leads to business growth. Don't listen to reply, listen to identify. So my question to you is, are you listening to reply, or are you listening to identify? Identify what your teams need. Identify what your clients are looking for. Identify where else are your clients shopping. Identify what your stakeholders need to make them more invested in your business. And this brings us to step number 3, I. So I'm not the only one in our family who's adopted. My ex-husband and I also adopted our daughter. We adopted our daughter from China, and it took about 2 years. Finally, we brought her home, and 2 weeks later, we found out I was pregnant with our son. It was shocking. It's still shocking, but the blessing in that was because we had a baby at home that was developing in normal course, we realized our daughter that we adopted had delays, struggles, differences. She eventually was diagnosed with ADHD, high-functioning autism, and a number of learning challenges. And as a parent, I focused, I listened, but then I made the wrong choice. And so many of us at this point make the wrong choice. So what is that choice? Well, I chose control. I chose control out of fear. I signed up for every type of therapy program. And as a parent, I thought, okay, if I can't get this child up to par, what would happen to her? And it wasn't until I flipped that choice and realized she didn't need me to control. She needed connection. Things changed. And so, step number 3, don't choose control, ignite the soul. And by soul, I mean the person, the heart, the person in front of you. Because when you ignite the soul, you don't lose control. You earn the right to lead. You earn the right to lead. And now my daughter's thriving, and it's because she trusts me, and I walk beside her. And that will be the same with your teams. When you ignite the soul, your teams get invested. You have less turnover. Clients feel seen. Stakeholders become invested. And now we have don't focus on you, focus on who. Don't listen to reply, listen to identify. Don't choose control, ignite the soul. But this is not the fly formula. This is the flip formula. So there's one last piece. And so I wrote a book after my travels around the US, and this book is about all the conversations I had. And I want to give away this book because my hope is that it will help you. It will help you connect. It will inspire you to connect. And when you connect in every aspect of your life, you not only increase business, you also increase joy. So listen to me very carefully here. Who would like this book? Giving it away for free. Okay, listen here. Actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. Who wants this book? Action. Okay, there you go, right here. He stood up first. There you go. Thank you. You can share the book. You can read together. So that's P. Don't play small, play ball. Whoops. Don't play small, play ball. Get into the game, just like life. Once you give your hires, you hire people and you delegate, it's like any team sport. You might put somebody in the same position, but it's a different person. Until you get into the game, you really don't know what their strengths are, where they might not be as strong as the person before, and maybe they can pick up somewhere else. Don't play small, play ball. And so I'd love to now end with us saying together. So I'll say the first part, and I'd like you to say the part in yellow here. Okay? So number 1, F, don't focus on you. A little loud. Let's try that. A little more energy. Don't focus on you.
Focus on who?
Don't listen to reply.
Listen to identify.
Don't choose control.
Soul.
Don't play small.
Play ball.
And that is how you flip the box. Thank you so much.